I have a friend whose business is owning and running a small organic supermarket, organic food shop, you see. And he's got one or two people that help him there, full and possibly part-time. But mainly I think it's his family input and his own, of course. He's one of these guys that works day and night, you know. And very successful. He's got one or two other little businesses as well. But he's a fascinating guy in that he's an absolute mine of information, an expert in his field of nutrition and so on. And I was talking to him yesterday, and because I thought, well, what's the best way of me making my own bread? I don't get through much bread, and he doesn't either, apparently. But I just wanted it to be gluten-free, and of course I mentioned the yeast. He said, oh, don't use yeast. Oh, really? I suppose I thought yeast was right in that I understood it. It got rid of some of the lectins in the grain that resist the stomach's digestion, and because the seed is meant to go through the system. Whether that's a good idea or not, I'm not quite so sure, actually, because in which case it's probably at heart what's wrong is that grain is not our natural food, and if we make it into bread, the way we make bread in general, we manage to ingest it, but perhaps we shouldn't. It's my theory, isn't it, that really we're a fruit eater, we're not a grain eater, so why are you eating bread, Marshall? But anyway, what came out much more strongly in the chat yesterday was that you shouldn't have yeast at all, any form, because earlier, you see, he talked about fermentation being bad. It encourages all the pathogens that you don't want in the body, that's invading the body and so on. And well, I hadn't known about this before. This is new to me. So I was listening and encouraging him to talk. And fortunately, despite being an incredibly industrious entrepreneur, he's utterly hooked on his subject of nutrition and the right diet and so on. And he gets carried away and can spend plenty of time talking to me. In fact, at the end, I said, my goodness, you're wasted here. You should be teaching, lecturing the subject. I mean, at the same time, I was thinking, now, hang on, who is his audience? And so I said to him, you should be on YouTube like me, so that this is available to people, so they can, I can't remember the words I used, but so he could tap in, people could tap into his knowledge and experience and be blessed by it. And he said, yes, well, I did think I'd do this when I sort of retire. And I thought, well, I'd better do it now, Now is always better, in my view. You start now, tiny ways, And he said, oh, well, perhaps you could, I think he said perhaps I could introduce him in some way to doing it on YouTube, how you do it and record it and so on. And I'm reminded here, yes, that's what I could do. That would be a great help, I think. Well, I'd like to be a help to him. So, thank you, Heavenly Father, for lovely chat with him. Not something I expected, of course. Always giving me these blessings. God's always giving us these blessings that we scarcely expect and don't expect at all. And we suddenly find, oh, it's rather a lovely time. Thank you for blessing me in this way. Didn't expect that, Father. Love you. Love you to bits. So I ask, Dad, that you, and I'm sure you will, guide me into how I can help him and encourage him, and see what you have in that line to, I'd like him to be publishing on YouTube so that anyone in the world can, well, anyone who's got access to the internet, or a friend who has, anyone in the world can benefit from his wealth of experience. I said to him, your skin's looking very good. He's a man of about, I don't know. He's probably in his 40s. I would think so. Perhaps early 40s. Mid-40s, perhaps. And he's had health issues himself. I've no doubt that's why he's drawn into this occupation. Organic everything, And it's taken some years, but had all sorts of health problems, and he's full of life, and it's like I am. I don't mean to praise myself, but he's full of life and energy and interest and application, and he takes time over people. He's not just obsessed with his business, He's obsessed with his interest, and he's a great religiously. He's he's a fundamentalist. I mean, again, you would have thought, no way would he and Marshall ever have a meeting of minds, but our values are so in parallel, so matching, that overrules, of course, the incredible barrier we'd have theologically between us. I know I'm anathema to a fundamentalist, and you would have thought a fundamentalist would be anathema to me, but they're so often not, because of their earnest intent. If they're sensitive to what I understand to be the truly spiritual, that's what counts. And by truly spiritual, I mean have the same values, that they love life, they're full of life, they've got an incredible sovereignty of action, because they're linked more to God and the spiritual than they are to the world and the physical. And you just find you've got such a meeting of minds, despite the incredible gulf in apparent theology, religion, but in values. You're all part of the host of heaven. That's just one